Readings of Almighty God's words. The responsibilities of leaders and workers. The responsibilities of leaders and workers, 25. E. Being unable to guard one's tongue. Next, we will fellowship about the fifth type of people, those who cannot guard their tongue. Is this a serious problem? Looking at it from a literal point of view, not being able to guard one's tongue does not seem like a significant issue. Some might have certain thoughts about characterizing these individuals as evil people. Since people have mouths, they are meant to speak anytime and anywhere. They may discuss matters anytime and anywhere. Is it not a bit excessive to categorize those who cannot guard their tongues among the evil ones to be cleared out? What do you think about this?
If they cause disturbances and disruptions to church life, or the work of the church, leading to adverse consequences, they are also to be cleared out.
The problem with such people is not about not guarding their tongues. It is a problem with their humanity. If they cause disturbances to the brothers and sisters, to church life, and to church work, or their words amount to betrayal and selling out the church, and even bring shame to God's house and God's name, then such individuals must be handled. Let's first discuss the manifestations of those who cannot guard their tongues, and then how to handle them. Can people who cannot guard their tongues be called big mouths?
Yes.
Is that so? Is this a characteristic of such people? Does being a big mouth mean being foolish and unaware of what should or should not be said, saying whatever comes to mind without considering the consequences? Is this what it means to not guard one's tongue?
No.
Some people are good at speaking and communicating. They are straightforward and relatively simple and honest. They often share their inner thoughts and ideas, their own revelations of corruption, what they have experienced, and even their mistakes with others. However, these individuals are not necessarily foolish or unable to guard their tongues. It seems that they talk about everything and are quite simple and honest. But when it comes to critical issues that could shame God or God's house, or issues that could involve their betrayal of the brothers and sisters or the church, thus making them Judases, they do not utter a word. This is called guarding one's tongue. Therefore, it's not that straightforward people with big mouths, or those who are good at speaking, cannot guard their tongues. What does it mean here to not be able to guard one's tongue? Not being able to guard one's tongue means speaking without principles and talking recklessly without considering the audience, occasion, or context. Moreover, it involves not knowing to protect the work of the church and the interests of God's house at all, or not caring at all whether it benefits the brothers and sisters or church life, and just saying anything. What is the consequence of just saying anything? It is the inadvertent betrayal of the interests of God's house and the interests of the brothers and sisters. Unintentionally, due to their reckless speech and inability to guard their tongues, they give non-believers leverage against God's house, allow non-believers to mock certain brothers and sisters, and let non-believers and people who don't believe in God know many things they shouldn't. As a result, these people freely comment on and make disrespectful remarks about the matters of God's house and the internal affairs of the church, and say things that slander and blaspheme God. They may even fabricate rumors about the brothers and sisters, the church, and the work of God's house, bringing about adverse consequences. This constitutes a disturbance to the work of God's house and is considered evil-doing. Some individuals pay particular attention to learning about and investigating who the leaders and workers in the church are, their family addresses, personal information of the brothers and sisters, the church's financial and accounting work, the accounting personnel, and lists of people who have been cleared out or expelled from the church. They also particularly focus on learning about the church's work arrangements. Such behavior is highly suspicious and could indicate that they are moles or spies of the Great Red Dragon. If these details are leaked to the non-believing devils, allowing the Great Red Dragon to know about them, the consequences would be unthinkable. Some, out of foolishness and ignorance, may share this information or part of it with their non-believing family members, who then spread it or provide it to agents of the Great Red Dragon. This could pose potential risks and bring many troubles to the church's work, with unimaginable consequences. These internal matters of the church are often inadvertently shared with non-believing family members by some people who disclose everything without reservation. And they are even shared with their non-believing relatives and friends. This leads to a continuous leak of the church's internal matters through their words to the outside world. What are the consequences of these leaks? Many of their non-believing family members, relatives, and friends become aware of many of the church's internal affairs that even the brothers and sisters might not know, or the home addresses of the brothers and sisters, their real names, and private marital matters. How do these church matters get leaked? How do non-believers come to know about them? There are correspondents within the church. What are such people called?
Those who cannot guard their tongues.
Exactly. They share everything that happens in daily church life or things concerning the brothers and sisters with their non-believing family members, such as a certain sister getting divorced, another sister's husband losing money in business, or her having a disobedient son, or a certain brother or sister buying a house, and so on. They also talk about the brothers and sisters who were arrested by the Great Red Dragon and became Judases, or those who stood firm in their testimony, and even mention that the church leaders pruned them. Their conversations at home revolve entirely around these topics. Their family members even offer advice and strategies to help them act against the leaders, the brothers and sisters, or anyone in the church who doesn't get along with them, poses challenges, or has exposed them. In gatherings among the brothers and sisters, such individuals appear particularly obedient and well-behaved, speak little, are not good at conversing, never talk about their own corrupt dispositions, never fellowship their experiential understanding, and even seldom pray. They treat the brothers and sisters with a sense of guardedness, while treating their non-believing family members as if they were members of God's house. They recite all details about the church to their family members without omission, sharing everything with them, including even the church's printing of books of God's Word, who has what talents in the church, and more. These are all discussed with their family members and people who don't believe in God. Regardless of their purpose in doing so, the ultimate consequence is that they betray the work of the church and the brothers and sisters. They are clued up on the situation of every key member in the church. Of course, these people are also the subjects of their behind-the-back discussions and judgments, and may even become the ones they secretly betray. If someone has a good relationship with them, they incessantly praise that person in front of their family. Conversely, if someone has a poor relationship with them, they incessantly hurl abuse toward that person in front of their family, even causing their family to join in the verbal abuse, calling the brothers and sisters idiots or saying that they are no good. These individuals insult brothers and sisters with whatever insulting words non-believers use. They are like non-believers. They are purely disbelievers. They aren't anything good, and such individuals should be promptly cleared out. In the nation of the Great Red Dragon, the information of everyone who believes in God should be kept confidential, and even when God's chosen people move overseas, their information must remain private. This is because the spies of the Great Red Dragon are spread throughout every country in the world, infiltrating everywhere with the specific aim of collecting information on those who believe in God. In mainland China, the situation for the brothers and sisters who follow God is very difficult and dangerous. Even when they go abroad, there is a certain level of danger. If the spies of the Great Red Dragon collect their information, for one thing, there is the risk of extradition, and for another, at the very least, their family members and relatives in mainland China could be implicated. For safety reasons and out of respect for individuals, everyone should keep the personal information of the brothers and sisters confidential and should not share it with those who don't believe in God. Even among those who believe in God, personal information should not be casually disclosed to others without the individual's consent. It is absolutely impermissible to treat any information about the brothers and sisters, church work, the duties one performs, experiences shared in fellowship, or other such details as conversation topics to be shared with non-believers during one's leisure time. What are the consequences of discussing these matters with them? Is there any positive or constructive result? The consequence of such discussions is that these non-believing devils seize leverage, mock and judge, and even curse and defame. Is this good? You should examine whether there are individuals within the church with ulterior motives who discuss such details as the actual situations of the church's work and church life, as well as who truly believes in God, who pursues the truth, who does their duties, who does not do their duties, who is often negative, who has a muddled faith, and even personal information and situations about the brothers and sisters, with non-believers and unbelieving family members, all without reservation. Check for such individuals. There are matters that even people within the church need not know. Yet the non-believing family members of such individuals know more about these affairs than those within the church, and know about them more clearly as well. How does this happen? This is the contribution of a mole within. This mole treats their family members as if they were church leaders, reporting back home on anything they see in the church to their leaders in an attempt to curry favor and deepen their emotional connection with their family. It's evident that all these matters of the church have been betrayed by those moles who cannot guard their tongues. They do not respect the brothers and sisters, nor do they protect the work and the interests of God's house. They treat God's house and the church like society or a public place, casually commenting on and judging the brothers and sisters as if they were non-believers, even joining with disbelievers and non-believers in freely passing judgment on the brothers and sisters. Furthermore, some individuals, after being pruned by the leaders or after conflicts, disputes, and disharmony with the brothers and sisters, go home and create a scene, making sure their family knows all about it. The consequence is that their family seeks vengeance against the leaders or the brothers and sisters, aiming to sell out and bring down the church. Is this a good phenomenon? Sharing the internal affairs of the church and things like how many brothers and sisters live church life, and what duties everyone does with family members, relatives, and friends without reservation. What sort of wretches are they? Are they true believers? Are they members of God's house? Can they be called brothers or sisters? Keeping such moles and hidden traitors within the church will, whether in the past, present, or future, bring significant trouble to God's house and the brothers and sisters. Even if they do not seem to commit many evil deeds in church life, the consequences and the impact of their secretly passing on various details about God's house to non-believers, Satans, and devils are extremely detrimental. Should such scum be allowed to remain in the church? Do they deserve to be called members of God's house? Are they worthy of being treated as brothers and sisters?
No.
How should such people be handled? They must be cleared out as soon as possible. Kick them out. This is the reason for clearing them out. You cannot guard your tongue. You fail to recognize what's good for you, biting the hand that feeds you. You believe in God and enjoy His grace, as well as the help, love, patience, and care from the brothers and sisters. Yet you still sell out the brothers and sisters and the church like this. You are no good. Beat it. The matters of the brothers and sisters, the matters of the church, and any work of God's house should not be disclosed to non-believers, nor should they be used as topics of idle conversation by them. They do not deserve it. Whoever spreads such information becomes a cursed figure, someone the church must clear out, and the brothers and sisters should reject them. Based simply on their actions of selling out the brothers and sisters and the church, sharing internal church matters with non-believers for casual talk. They are undoubtedly traitors, moles, and evil people who should be cleared out from the church. The brothers and sisters are free to fellowship and debate as needed about whatever work is done within the church, such as who ought to be cleared out or the occurrence of certain events. But it must not be shared with non-believers, and it cannot be spoken of with non-believing family members. Particularly, the personal and family situations of new brothers and sisters of small stature must not be disclosed to outsiders. If you find it hard to keep it to yourself, you should pray to God and rely on Him to learn self-restraint and go engage in some meaningful activities. If you truly cannot control yourself, you should first report to the church to seek a solution, to prevent adverse consequences, because spreading such information is most prone to causing problems. For instance, personal phone numbers, home addresses, how many years someone has believed in God, personal family and marital status, and so on, are sensitive topics. These have nothing to do with the truth or life entry. They pertain to personal privacy. Only agents and moles specifically investigate these matters. If you enjoy learning about and spreading such matters, what kind of disposition does that indicate? It's somewhat vile. Not pursuing the truth, but focusing on gossip, acting as a mole or spy and rendering service for the great red dragon. Isn't that vile and nefarious? Anyone who specifically inquires about, investigates, and recklessly spreads sensitive topics and others' private affairs is harboring ulterior motives and is a disbeliever. God's chosen people must be especially wary of such individuals. If such people do not repent, their church life should be discontinued, because selling out the brothers and sisters is the most immoral, despicable, and shameful act. God's chosen people should stay away from these individuals. In church life, people should be restricted from inquiring about and discussing these matters, as they have nothing to do with the fellowship of the truth, and talking about them brings no benefits to others whatsoever. God's house has various administrative decrees and regulations that God's chosen people must adhere to. Matters such as the internal affairs of the church, personnel adjustments to leaders and workers, the church's cleansing work, and arrangements from the above, among others, must not be casually spread within the church to prevent them from being betrayed to Satan by disbelievers and evil people. The reason for this is because God's house is different from society. God requires people to pursue the truth, read God's word more, ponder and fellowship more. Only propagating God's words and bearing witness for God can constitute a proper atmosphere. Only sharing more experiential testimonies can constitute such an atmosphere. Additionally, there are many new believers in God's house who have believed in God for only a short time. It's inevitable that some disbelievers have not yet been revealed. In particular, the first 5 or 10 years of belief is a time for revealing people's true selves. During this time, it's uncertain who can stand firm and who cannot. nor how many evil people capable of disturbing the church still exist. Always recklessly spreading personal information and such external affairs, as well as matters unrelated to fellowshipping the truth, can lead to many adverse consequences. For example, someone may ask, "Where is a certain leader from? Where do they live?" This sensitive information is not what God's chosen people need to know. Someone else may ask, "How much does it cost for God's house to print a book of God's words?" Is knowing this useful? Is the printing cost any of your business? Have you been charged for it? It seems unrelated to you, right? Some might ask, who are the upper-level leaders in God's house now? If they are not directly leading you, does not knowing this affect you? In mainland China, knowing these things could be a problem. If caught by the great red dragon and subjected to severe torture, if you don't know these things, no matter how they beat you, you can't disclose anything, and so you won't end up becoming a Judas. But if you do know and can't withstand the fierce beatings they give you, you might end up speaking out, becoming a Judas. At that moment, you might think, why did I recklessly ask those questions then? It would have been much better not to know. Even if beaten to death, I still would have been ignorant of those things. Even if I had wanted to make up answers, I wouldn't have been able to come up with any. In that case, I wouldn't have become a Judas. I've learned my lesson now. It's best not to know too much about these matters unrelated to the truth. Inquiring about such things is of no benefit. Not knowing is better. And there are some others who may ask, how many teams are there in God's house doing specialized work? What business is it of yours? Just do whatever work is assigned to your own team. Not knowing this doesn't affect your ability to do your duty normally, pursue the truth in your faith, or live church life. It doesn't affect anything. Not knowing this doesn't hinder you from pursuing the truth or achieving salvation as a believer. So why bother asking? Are most brothers and sisters from urban areas or rural areas? Are they educated or uneducated? Is knowing these things useful? So what if they're all from rural areas? And so what if they're all from cities? This has nothing to do with the truth. Some may ask, how is gospel work spreading now? Asking a bit about this is okay, but some people, out of curiosity, ask in detail about exactly how many countries the gospel work has spread to, which is unnecessary. Even if they knew this, what impact would it have on them? What benefit would knowing such details bring? If you don't have the truth reality, you will continue to not have it, even if you knew. This knowledge won't help you do your duties well at all, or provide any aid to your life entry. It's okay not to inquire about some general affairs. In fact, it's better not to know. Knowing too much is a burden. Once such information is leaked, it becomes a problem and a transgression. Knowing these things is not good. The more you know, the more trouble it can cause. Those who understand the truth know what should be said and what should not be said. The muddled ones, who lack spiritual understanding, fail to distinguish between insiders and outsiders when they're talking only nonsense. Therefore, these matters should not be reported to those in the church who do not understand the truth. Knowing these things does not bring benefits in any way. For one, these people cannot help solve problems. Second, they cannot protect the work of the church. And third, there is no need for them to speak well of God's house. All of God's words are the truth, and all of God's actions are righteous. Is there any need for fawning and flattery from those disbelievers and non-believers who lack spiritual understanding? There is not. Even if not a single creature in the entire world followed God or worshiped Him, God's status and essence would remain unchanged. God is God, forever immutable, unchanged by any alterations in circumstances. God's identity and status are eternally unchanging. These are truths that those who believe in God should understand. Those disbelievers and non-believers speak and act without distinguishing between insiders and outsiders. Is it beneficial to the work of God's house for them to know too much? Is it necessary for them to know about the work of God's house? They are not worthy of this knowledge. Some might ask, are these matters all secrets, and that's why they cannot be known? Having believed in God up to this point, do you think these matters contain secrets?
No.
But God's chosen people possess integrity and dignity. They must not be subjected to discussion or ridicule by non-believers. God's house, the church, and the brothers and sisters, whether as a group or individuals, all have dignity. They are all positive, and no one should attempt to defile them. Anyone who acts in a way that allows Satans and devils to wantonly defile and casually defame or harm the reputation of God's house, or harm the reputation of the brothers and sisters, is cursed. Therefore, the church absolutely does not permit the existence of those who cannot guard their tongues. Once identified, they must be cleared out. Is this approach in line with principles? Some people are especially careful and cautious when they speak, communicate, interact, or associate with the brothers and sisters. But once they are back home, they become big mouths, spilling everything, even the personal information of the brothers and sisters, such that their family members, non-believers with no faith, and those who believe in name only, know a lot about the church's affairs. Such a person is a mole, a traitor, a Judas, and precisely the kind of individual the church should clear out. The longer they stay in the church, the more information they will know about the brothers and sisters, the more they will engage in betrayal, and the more matters there will be that are seized upon by non-believers to use as leverage and for defamation. If you are not afraid of them betraying this information to non-believers, then keep them. If you do not wish for your personal information and the internal affairs of the church to be spread from their mouths, then you should clear out these moles as soon as possible. Is this appropriate? No leniency should be shown to such individuals. They harbor no good intentions and are not anything good themselves. How do such people compare to those two types of people previously mentioned, those inclined toward vengeance and those who are dissolute and unrestrained? Are they better or worse? These individuals might also do their duties, exert some effort, and endure some hardship. They may cooperate with whatever the house of God asks of them and do not refuse. But there is one problem. They divulge everything about God's house to non-believers. They play the role of a traitor, a mole every day. Just for this reason, the church cannot tolerate them and must clear them out. Do you understand? Regardless of whether they are happy or unhappy within the church, who provokes them, who gets along with them, whether they are elected as church leaders or dismissed. No matter what happens, they always have to share every detail with their non-believing family members. They ensure that their non-believing family members and non-believers are informed right away and promptly grasp the internal situation of the church. For such individuals, you must absolutely not show them any leniency nor any mercy. Upon discovering one, clear them out. How is this approach? Is doing it this way ruthless? It is not being ruthless. You treat them as brothers and sisters, but they do not protect the interests of God's house or the interests of the brothers and sisters at all. Instead, they betray the interests of God's house and the brothers and sisters at every turn. You regard them as family, but do they consider you family? Then do not show them leniency. If they need to be cleared out, then clear them out. Up to this point, have you encountered such individuals?
Yes. They shared everything about the brothers and sisters with their family members. And sometimes they also informed their family members about certain matters and specific arrangements within the church at the first opportunity. Their family members then gathered ammunition to gossip about the church behind its back.
Have these individuals been cleared out?
Yes.
After being cleared out, did they complain? They may feel it's unfair, thinking, I haven't done anything. This doesn't constitute a violation of the administrative decrees, nor have I caused disruptions or disturbances. So why was I cleared out? Do you think the nature of their actions is more severe than causing disruptions and disturbances? Can such people be redeemed? Is it easy for them to change?
No.
Why do you say it will not be easy? What aspect shows it is difficult for them to change?
They are not part of God's house. They are not brothers or sisters. Their essence is that of disbelievers and non-believers.
This is their essence. So how can you tell they are non-believers and disbelievers?
Whatever emotions they have in the church, they vent to their family, indicating that whatever happens, they do not accept it from God, much less do they learn any lessons. Such people do not experience God's work and do not accept the truth, so their essence is that of disbelievers.
This essence of theirs has been made clear. They vent their emotions to their family and treat everything based on their emotions. How can you tell that they are not part of God's house, but are non-believers who have infiltrated God's house?
Because they can betray the interests of God's house, acting as traitors and moles, and because they are fundamentally not people who protect the work and interests of God's house. Thus, these individuals are not of one heart with God's house.
This explanation didn't hit the mark. Let me explain. Although these individuals participate in church life and do their duties, have they ever considered the brothers and sisters as their family? In plain terms, have they regarded the brothers and sisters as their own?
No.
Then what do they consider the brothers and sisters?
Outsiders.
Correct. As outsiders, as adversaries. What then do they consider God's house and the church? Isn't it just a workplace for them? They regard God's house and the church as if they were companies or organizations of the world of non-believers, viewing the brothers and sisters as outsiders, as those to be guarded against, as adversaries. Thus, they can easily divulge various kinds of information and various actual situations about the brothers and sisters to those who fundamentally do not believe in God. They are aware that these non-believing people won't have any good things to say, and could even slander the brothers and sisters and defame God's house. They know all this, yet they still recklessly disclose the situations of the brothers and sisters and the church to these non-believers without the slightest reservation. Clearly, they view the brothers and sisters as outsiders, as adversaries, and whenever any unpleasantness arises, they immediately join hands with non-believers to mock, defame, and act against the brothers and sisters behind their backs, thus satisfying their own desires. They feel that judging any brother or sister wouldn't be feasible in the church, because if they discuss the church's matters or the brothers and sisters in front of the brothers and sisters themselves, they feel they would have to bear the consequences, which would be unfavorable for them. But discussing these matters with their family completely satisfies their personal impetuousness, desires, and emotions without having to bear any consequences, since family is, after all, family. Who wouldn't sell them out? However, it's not the same with the brothers and sisters, who could report them, expose them, and prune them, and even cause them to lose their duties and positions at any time or place. So, it's not false at all to say that they view the brothers and sisters as their adversaries. An adversary is someone who should be guarded against. Thus, they do not speak to the brothers and sisters, neither fellowshipping with them nor exposing anything to them. Instead, they live church life with their non-believing family members at home, where they share everything and pour out their hearts. They unreservedly express their thoughts, opinions, frustrations, dissatisfactions, and all their distorted views without any scruples whatsoever, finding release and pleasure in doing so. Their family members do not disdain them, but instead help and cooperate with them. If they were to speak like this in the church, their true nature as disbelievers would be fully exposed, and the church would have to clear them out. Therefore, they do not view the brothers and sisters as family, but as adversaries. This is one aspect, The other aspect is that they never consider themselves as part of the church. So anything that happens to the church, whether it's defamation and blasphemy from the religious community, baseless rumors and ridicule from non-believers, or framing and persecution by the national government, is irrelevant and insignificant to them personally. Suppose that this was how they truly felt. If the church's image is damaged and God's name is dishonored, our dignity as believers is seriously challenged. Because of this, I would never discuss church matters or the affairs of God's house with non-believers, letting them gossip and laugh about it. Not even to protect myself would I casually talk about the affairs of God's house with my non-believing family members. If they had such an awareness, wouldn't they then be able to guard their tongues? So why can't they do this? It is clear that they fundamentally do not consider themselves part of God's house, nor do they consider themselves believers. Some people say, "Your words are incorrect." If they don't consider themselves as part of God's house, why would they still come to gatherings? Among those who believe in God, there are all kinds of people. Haven't we fellowshipped about this before? There are many who come to believe in God with various improper motives and purposes, and this is one such type. Believing in God for amusement, to relieve boredom, or to find spiritual sustenance. Aren't such disbelievers common? Can't such people be found in ample numbers? They don't even acknowledge themselves as believers in God. Of course, all the work of the church and God's chosen people doing their duties are of no concern to them. They pay no heed to them. Thus, they can casually and lightly discuss the work situation of the church, the internal affairs of the church, and even any issues that occur among the brothers and sisters with non-believers. After they finish speaking, non-believers proceed to gossip, slander, and satirize, but it doesn't bother them in the slightest. They might even join the non-believers in hurling abuse at the brothers and sisters, judging God's house, and commenting on the work and the work arrangements of God's house. Are they believers in God? A true believer would never act in this manner. Even if it were for the sake of protecting their own dignity and interests, they would never bite the hand that feeds them and side with those outside the church. Isn't this so? Therefore, such individuals are evil people and disbelievers who must be cleared out. The sooner they are cleared out, the sooner the church will have tranquility. Let's talk about yourselves. For instance, if your parents don't believe in God, or if your siblings or best friends don't believe in God, but they don't oppose your belief and are actually quite supportive of it, would you talk to them about everything that happens in the church? Suppose one of your female friends asks, "Are there any men in your church who are looking for a partner? Are there any who are particularly guileless and tall, wealthy, and handsome?" Some decent people among the non-believers also wish to find a decent partner to spend their days with. Your female friend wants to find someone who believes in God. So will you be willing to tell her?
No.
You should tell her. Your fondness for believers is useless. You are a non-believer and fundamentally incompatible with believers. You have no common language. You walk different paths. Look at you, dressed so flamboyantly. Which brother in our church would take a fancy to you? You don't think highly of her. So could you talk to her about church matters? Just a few words in, and the conversation would fall apart, with completely divergent viewpoints. Even if some non-believers have a good impression of believers, and even if they maintain a friendship with you after you become a believer, would you be willing to share with them the church's internal affairs or the difficulties you encounter in doing your duties? Even if they support your belief in God, what's the use of discussing church matters with them? For example, some brothers and sisters have withstood torture and interrogation by the great red dragon without becoming Judases. This is a testimony that even non-believers admire. Would you be willing to share this with them?
No.
Why wouldn't you be willing to discuss it? They wouldn't be able to understand. What negative effects could discussing these matters have? They would cast judgment. Why put yourselves through this? Why go against the national government? See, a single comment can expose their nature. How can this be considered going against the national government? It's clear that the devil king ruling the country is grievously harming God's chosen people, leaving them without a way to live. Even when they witness this, they pretend not to know. It's clear that they speak in a way that inverts the truth and twists facts. What else could you possibly discuss with them? You cannot speak to them about anything related to faith in God. You cannot let them know anything about this. Those who cannot guard their tongues can tell everything about the church to non-believers. They are obviously disbelievers. They are devils coming to God's house to muddle along, beasts biting the hand that feeds them without a shred of conscience or reason. For them, any harm to the interests or reputation of God's house or the church doesn't affect them at all, doesn't touch on any of their own interests, and they do not feel the slightest bit of sorrow. Thus, they can recklessly talk about the internal affairs of the church to non-believers and people who don't believe in God without the slightest scruple. Are such people hateful? Can a disbeliever who does not see the brothers and sisters as family, but sees non-believers as their family, accept the truth? Can they acknowledge that God is the truth? Can a person who doesn't consider themselves a member of the church, when hearing the words of God's salvation of man, put aside their own interests to pursue the truth and enter the truth reality? Their daily activities consist only of betraying the interests of the church, siding with outsiders, and serving as moles, Judases, traitors, as if this is their mission. They do not walk a proper path, but live to do evil. They deserve to die and be cursed. These Judases, traitors, and servants of Satan who bite the hand that feeds them are negative wretches. They are harmful to humankind and are despised by all. So, isn't it absolutely proper for the church to handle them and clear them out? It is absolutely proper. Wouldn't you dislike being sold out? If the church or God's house were sold out, Most might not empathize deeply or feel too distressed. They'd just be a bit uncomfortable inside because, after all, they are a member of it. But what if you were sold out by someone in the church to non-believers, and because of them selling you out, non-believers twisted the facts, defamed, mocked, judged, and condemned you? How would you feel then? Wouldn't you then experience the humiliation and shame suffered by the church and God's house? From this point of view, is it appropriate to clear out such individuals? They should be cleared out. There's no need to show them leniency. Concerning those who cannot guard their tongues, based on the various manifestations of how they live as a person and what they live out, they are disbelievers within the church, a type of evil person who should be cleared out. Regardless of whether their actions are done in secrecy or openly, once it is discovered that someone cannot guard their tongue and their humanity essence is that of a thoroughgoing disbeliever, then immediately report them to the leaders and workers and notify the brothers and sisters. A timely and accurate discernment should be made about such individuals, and they should then be cleared out from the church as soon as possible. Do not let them have any involvement with the church, its work, or the brothers and sisters. Thoroughly clearing them out is the correct action. This concludes the fellowship on this manifestation of humanity, being unable to guard one's tongue. Are the three types of people fellowshipped about today more serious cases than the two types fellowshipped about previously? Their circumstances are worse. Their humanity is viler and more despicable, and their harm and impact on the interests of the church and all brothers and sisters is greater. Therefore, do not take these three types of people lightly. They should be vigilantly guarded against and not indulged. If anyone is identified as one of these three types, they should be exposed and discerned immediately, and then disposed of as quickly as possible. If they are doing an important duty, find someone to take over their duty immediately, and then remove them from that duty and clear them out. Understood? The various states of the church's brothers and sisters, their various manifestations in different periods, the church's work, and even some of its internal affairs are only allowed to be discussed and fellowshipped among the brothers and sisters. This is to enable God's chosen people to have clearer understandings and insights of the principles required by God's house, thereby achieving the ability to act according to the truth principles. However, one principle must be clear. Whether it is truths or principles concerning the life entry of God's chosen people, or whether it's the regulations for general affairs, they are absolutely not allowed to be spoken of to non-believers, which would result in non-believers commenting and pointing fingers. This is absolutely prohibited. Some might say, if it's absolutely prohibited, does that mean it's an administrative decree? It can be put this way: whoever leaks information will bear the corresponding consequences. Why will they have to bear the consequences? Because those who leak internal matters of the church do not protect the church or the brothers and sisters, and can easily betray the church and the brothers and sisters. Since they act as traitors and Judases, they should no longer be shown leniency or considered as brothers and sisters or family. They should be disposed of as traitors and Judases and be directly cleared out of the church. Some people say, "I used to have the bad habit of being a big mouth. I was prone to speaking recklessly. Now that I see the consequences of such actions, I dare not speak recklessly anymore." Good. Since you've said this, your behavior will be observed. If you truly repent and turn around, no longer recklessly passing on information or betraying the interests of the brothers and sisters, and can guard your tongue, God's house will give you one chance. If it's discovered again that you've done this, that you were the one to spread some information, you will not be shown any leniency. The brothers and sisters in the church will unite to clear you out. When that happens, don't cry or complain that you weren't warned in advance. Now that things are explained clearly, if this happens again, God's house will absolutely not be lenient. Understood? If you see anyone who hasn't understood, explain it to them. Give them pointers using what we've fellowshipped today. If you notice someone showing signs of this behavior, or someone who has acted this way before, communicate with them, warn them, and inform them of the nature and consequences of such actions, as well as God's house's attitude toward these matters and people. After making things clear, observe them to see if they can repent and what they will do in the future. If they change and no longer act in such a way, they can be accepted back and treated as brothers and sisters. But if they remain obstinately unrepentant and continue to covertly act like this, clear them out whenever you find such a person. If you find a pair, then clear out the two of them. If you find a group, then clear out the whole lot. Don't show any leniency. Some people ask, "Can I talk to those in my family who once believed but were later cleared out?" It seems that those who love to run their mouths and engage in gossip don't find it easy to control themselves, always stubbornly asking if that is permissible. What do you think? Is it permissible? It's not permissible to speak to anyone, as it easily leads to consequences. Such people must all be disposed of as Judases. Those who are non-believers, those who have been cleared out, those who are close to you, those who are trustworthy, those who are supportive of your belief in God, those who have a favorable impression of believing in God, and those who nominally believe in God, who merely live church life and read a bit of God's words but do not do their duty whatsoever, must not be spoken to. If one does, they will be disposed of as a Judas. Understood? Who else is included in those who do not do their duties? Are ordinary church members included?
Yes.
Don't forget this matter. Don't be foolish. You must grasp the principles well. Don't go on believing only to end up becoming a Judas and betraying God's house, betraying the brothers and sisters without even realizing it, and even feeling proud of it. Not being able to guard one's tongue, and even betraying the work of the church and the brothers and sisters, is a serious transgression. God keeps records of anyone who commits such evil. Now that it's been clearly explained to you, and you've understood, if you do it again, it's not a simple transgression anymore. It's a violation of the administrative decree, which makes you a target for being cleared out, and you will be deprived of the right to salvation. Understood?